What's up, resellers? I'm Rebecca, and you're watching Rebecca the Reseller. Thank you for joining me today for my very brand new series. I am so excited, you guys. So in honor of my 2-year tubeversary, or my 2-year anniversary on YouTube, I wanted to bring back an interview series. A long time ago, 2 years ago, when I was the Reseller Mom Show, that's what my channel was called then, I had an interview series called Momversations, and it was a reseller interview show with other moms and how we get everything done as reselling moms, etc., etc. And I loved doing that. I loved talking with other people. I loved sharing not only my story, but their stories with the people watching, and it was great. However, I did realize over time that I was being very exclusive by only talking with moms, and that there were a lot of non-moms, whether they were men or women that weren't moms, that, still wanted to watch the channel and still had, things that they could get from the channel, but I wasn't speaking to them. And so that's when I rebranded to Rebecca the Reseller. And so now I've really been kind of itching since Gio has gone back to school and I have more time to set up these interviews and record more and be more accountable to have an appointment to have this interview show back, except different. And so what I decided to do was call it Reseller Life ! And basically it's going to be talking with different sellers about a reselling day in the life. So for that person, for that seller, what's life like for you? What's a day in your life like? How does it go? For me, I'm always really curious as to how other resellers manage their day, manage their stuff, manage, work-life balance if there is that. Do they mostly do everything at home? Do they have a storage unit, facility, helpers, virtual people? Like, what goes on in their reselling world on a daily basis? That fascinates me because I'm always trying to find out how to do something better, how to do something more efficient, how to make improvements in myself, my habits, and my business. So I'm hoping that that's what this series can be, that it can be all of those things by sharing what everybody's up to in a day. Hello. Okay, so remember when I said I was doing a video? So that's what it is all about. It's about a reseller day in the life. And I wanted to kick the series off by kind of explaining it a little bit like I just did and allowing myself to be the first one so I can share with you what I do in a day and kick off the series. Then next week, there's going to be a brand new seller on the show, and it's more of interview style. So today it's just me talking, but the future episodes will feature a different seller and it will be an interview. This is going on over here. An interview style. So I hope that you will always get something out of every episode. I know that I've already kind of scheduled a few and I've already had a few of these interviews and I've gotten something out of each one, but hopefully it's all about you and that you're able to take something away from the conversation, which is awesome because it's always different every time when you speak with another reseller. Hopefully you get something out of it as well. So that's the plan with Reseller Life. And let me know in the comments below who you would like me to interview, because I would love to let that person know when I ask them to be on the show that they were highly requested. So drop in the comments who some of the resellers are that you would like to see featured so that I can start making some outreach if I don't already have them scheduled. Okay, so I have my notebook because yes, I know what I do in a day, but I do feel like I do a lot of things and A lot of it just comes natural now because I've been doing it for so long. So I kind of wanted to actually like write it down so I can make sure that I share it with you, because one thing I am is productive. I don't know if you've ever gotten that gist from me. I know a lot of people ask me in the comments, like, where do you get your energy? How many cups of coffee do you have? Life is actually pretty easy for me right now, and that's because Gio is in full-time school. And for a long time, he was not. He was home with me up until 2.5, and then he went part-time, so 3 half days a week to school. And then the pandemic happened and he came back completely home with me. And only now in now it's February, but in January of 2021, he started going back to in-person school. And because they're trying to cram it all in, he actually goes from like 9 to 3, 5 days a week. So it's like we skipped straight forward to kindergarten, even though he's not in kindergarten yet. And so I now have the taste of what many mothers out there have learned of what it's like to have school-age children. So my life is like easy street right now compared to what it used to be. Just to let you know, for those that used to watch the channel, I used to get up at 4 a.m. to build my business. I always, used to say my business was built from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. every single day. I got up at 4, I did 3 hours worth of work before anyone was up in this house. Husband wasn't up, Gio wasn't up, my dog wasn't up, I was up working, and then they all got up, all hell broke loose, and then I kind of squeezed the business in, I always say, in pockets of time throughout the day, and that's how I built my business. Now I have, Monday through Friday, 9 to 3 to really get stuff done. So this is going to be a great year. I'm super positive, and I'm also more well-rested. So now I get up at 6 a.m. and I get up at 6 a.m. I do the same stuff that everybody does: get coffee, have a glass of water, check in on your phone and see what happened on Instagram, get back to comments and DMs. What happened on YouTube, get back to comments and, anything that happened there. Obviously, first I'm checking my Poshmark, and for those of you, you're checking your eBay and dealing with offers, comments, all that kind of stuff. So we do our morning check-ins, right? So I start my day just like that as well, over coffee, and, deal with all those sorts of immediate things. Then I hop on the computer, which is usually at the kitchen table, because I work in here in the reselling room when it's like photographs and stuff, but pretty much everything else I do is at the kitchen table, just more comfortable. There's more sunlight there, and I can put the TV on and kind of have it on in the background, and I just like working in there. So I hop on the computer and I basically have a spreadsheet kind of checklist that runs my entire life. I have different columns for personal, for business, for daily, for weekly, all that kind of stuff. I think I have it linked in my link tree on Instagram, like an example one, and I think I've done a video on it. Anyway, so I just basically go down the line. Like, I just create a list. I love checking things off, and I just go down the line of all my daily activities that I do as part of my morning business routine. So what is that? YouTube comments, planning out my day, what needs to happen that day and when, updating my sales tracker so I know what happened from the day before, doing YouTube comments, checking my ThreadUp spreadsheet, which tells me what bags and boxes and kits I need to reclaim or drop prices or whatever. That's all kind of managed in its own spreadsheet. I do my Poshmark listings first thing in the morning. So they're already drafted, and I'll talk about that later when I actually draft them in the day. So I have drafts kind of preset. They're like half done, like the photos are in. And then in the morning, I just open up all those drafts, do the title, do the description, and all the drop downs, and set those live. And right now I'm listing 10 per day, though I am on an incremental path to increase that. So I shared that on Instagram. And so in March, I'm going to go up to 12 per day. And then in April, I'll go up to 15 per day. And I'll just kind of keep going till I get to 25 per day, which I think is like by August, maybe something. So if you want to join me on that kind of incremental increase challenge, you are more than welcome. So I got my Poshmark listings up, and then I also set, right now I'm working on three posts for Instagram. So I use a scheduling software because you never know what you're kind of doing in the day. And so for me, I like to have stuff ready to go. That way, all I'm doing throughout the day with Instagram is checking. Like, I'm checking to see if anybody's commented or DM'd me so I can just get back with them on my own time, but I'm not having to post at a certain time. So I use a scheduling software called Buffer. There is a paid version. I used to have it. I may again in the future, but right now I'm not setting things up too far. So I'm doing 3 posts a day. I set those up in the morning. So I go on my phone and like upload those photos to Buffer, type out my captions and hashtags, and then those will go live for me throughout the day. And I like that because it is fresh content because it's basically like from the day before. So I'm kind of always a day behind. Sometimes I post things live. I just feel like a lot of pressure with Instagram to be consistent, but also what if that day wasn't that interesting? You know what I mean? I'm like, what am I going to come up with and like randomly, show you that I'm just drinking water out of a mason jar today. So it's just kind of whatever. So I like to prep them in the morning for the day and they just go live. After that, that's kind of like my morning business routine. By that time, that's done. People are starting to get up around here. Like other things need to happen to get the household and life going. So I walk the dog, I'm making breakfast, I'm making sure Gio's getting ready for school, whatever my, husband might need, although usually not, he can kind of handle himself, thank God. So it's more like morning chores, like whatever dishes are in there and just any morning typical household things. While that's all going on, I'm also doing shipping. So depending on how Gio is with getting ready and stuff, I've printed out my labels, I'm pulling my items, I might stop, go deal with him, come back to it. So shipping is kind of like, if I just sat down and shipped, would probably take me 20 minutes, if that. But because I'm kind of doing it over the course of an hour and a half period, it takes that whole amount of time because I'm starting and stopping and dealing with the jokers that live with me. So then I get Gio off to school. And again, I'm just kind of going off of like Monday through Friday type of thing right now. So I get Gio off to school and they come back. And the first thing I'm doing is photos. So I come back into here and I already usually have clothes hanging. So the night before when I'm kind of brain dead is when I hang them up because it's just an easy, mindless task to do. We'll talk about that later. So I already have them hung up. So I'll just set aside which 10 I want to do. Like, do I have a lot of tops and sweaters? Do I have a lot of dresses? Whatever. So I try to batch do them as much as I can. So I'll pull out my 10, do all my measurements, and then do all my photos for those 10. And then I'm basically done in here. And then my reselling, major stuff is finished for the day at that point. I have a couple little things that I do after that. So photos are done. And if you want to know my exact photo process, I recently did a video. It's actually a demo for my photo ready measurements form, which is a big part of my new system. So check out that video because that would be helpful perhaps if you're curious how I do all of that pretty efficiently. And then I did do like my photography process, and I have, a couple other videos about photography on my channel. So once I'm done with photos, I'm kind of finished in here. I'll go back to the kitchen and focus on like, how am I going to attack this day? Like I've already kind of made a plan for the day in the early morning routine. Oh, and I should say I share, just because I'm going to forget, my Poshmark closet gets shared at 7, 11, 2, 6, around 7 or 8, depending. I also send offers at that time. And then 10, give or take, me falling asleep. So that's kind of when the closet gets shared because I'm going to forget. Like there's more important things to talk about than when the closet gets shared. And sometimes I'm doing it in bursts. Sometimes I have a helper. Like I just do the best I can with it. But you guys know I'm pretty big of a proponent of sharing your closet as much as you possibly can in a day. So that's that. Then photos are done. So now I'm sitting down at the kitchen table to focus on whatever projects are. Now at the beginning of this year, I have a giant list of projects, a lot of like big things that I've been putting off. So I don't think that this is going to be typical for me all the time. Who knows? I'm always one to come up with a project. But right now I'm like overhauling my Etsy store. I'm revising my entire, financial spreadsheet. I've been working on tax prep. I'm, what else am I doing? I worked on a Instagram content thing. I'm working on my new product. I launched a product already. I have another launch coming up soon. So products and just overarching projects that I've been putting off for a long time. So like, this is when I go into kind of like weekly thing. Like Mondays are more like planning and financials and stuff like that. Tuesdays are more going to sell stuff to Style Encore every, 2 weeks or so and working on videos. Wednesday, I usually start a project and have it carry through till Friday. Thursday, I'm usually doing my live and kind of all that goes along with that. Friday is more projects. So obviously I have doctor's appointments, I have errands to run for the family, so everything kind of fits in through that day. And that's the flexible part. So for me right now, I do work off of a to-do list. I don't plan something for a time frame unless I know that it does need to happen at that time. So like an actual appointment that I set with someone to record, let's say, a future episode of Reseller Life, that's going to happen at a certain time. That goes on the calendar as a time appointment. But other things, I just schedule as like an all day, like this needs to happen on this day. And if it doesn't happen on that day, I just move it to another day. And that doesn't bother me. Like, I don't get bothered by not getting my entire to-do list done. It's more of a wish list that keeps me motivated to keep moving, because if I only put 5 things on my to-do list, I'd only do 5 things, and maybe I wouldn't even do 5. Maybe I do only 3 or 4 because that's what the list said. But if I have 10 and I do 8, that's better. So for me, I make a pretty aggressive to-do list to challenge myself to keep busy and not lose momentum, because momentum is a lot of it. Like, keep moving, keep doing, and you'll keep doing. So when I get into like this project period, like I kind of went through the weekly thing, it's pretty fluid, but like I know, like this past week, I was working on Instagram content. Like I wanted to make a couple of lists of some posts that I wanted to get done, some sayings that I wanted to like put into graphics, some things that I wanted to promote on Instagram and kind of make like a rotation of that. So I'm not always like reseller boxes, buy my reseller boxes, buy my course, like I'm trying it's not that I don't want to be salesy, because I was in sales. So it comes naturally to me to be a salesperson. But what I want to do is balance the content I put out with tips and value and giving to you, as well as, the consultative products that I have, that do help you in your business. It's not like I'm selling you, shampoo, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to solve problems in your business, same as the problems that I have in my business, and I just made a product for it. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. But so during that time, I'm like using my brain to create shirts for Amazon merch. I'm editing a video or planning out videos or scheduling videos or recording videos. I'm working on my content strategy. I'm working on a new product for a digital download for my Etsy store. I'm working on my next course. Those are the kinds of projects I'm talking about. Now, I do have several more reseller focused projects coming up where like I actually want to completely overhaul all my listings, because I've gone through an evolution of how I've done my listings, and as I learn different tips and tricks, I don't always go back and fix everything from before. I just start doing it going forward. Or I start doing it and then I kind of fall off because something happened, and then I don't get back on the horse. So like only recently I actually gave my mom access to my account, and I had her help me put these graphics in at the end of my listing. I think I've talked about them before. Like I have a graphic about that I'm a professional seller and I ship same next day, heart for price drops, things like that, like a buyer confidence, but I made it into a graphic. And so that goes at the end of my listings. But for a while I wasn't putting it in there. So some of my listings had it, some of them didn't. And so I recently asked my mom to go in. She's retired, she has nothing to do. So I had her go in, help me get those all up to speed. So like that part is done. So now soon I'm going to go through and like revise all my boutique items and kind of get those going. And then I'm going to go through and deal with my thrifted items, because those are obviously more of a one-off thing. And so there's some overhaul that I want to do on that. I mean, my photos are good and stuff like that, but I do a lot of closet reviews for Poshmark, which I love doing. And I work on a lot of products to help people improve and increase their Poshmark sales, which I also love doing. And then, so sometimes I'm so busy kind of helping, or like worry about somebody else's closet, that even though those are the things I believe are the right thing to do, I don't always do them in my own, which sounds terrible. And I like to lead by example, but sometimes I get like stuck, like with the amount of time or things to do. So my goal is to do an overhaul of everything so that I can be a true lead by example, because it's not fair for me to go and say, do this, do this, do this in your closet, and then mine has 3 different kinds of listing templates. It's like, it's not nice. So that's one of my projects, just as an example. So my day is not all spent on reselling. I like reselling enough. I like that it allows me to have a business more, and I like all the aspects of my business. That's why I do consider myself a multi-passionate entrepreneur, like how I introduced myself at the beginning. Like, I'm a reseller on Poshmark and ThreadUp, and I will be adding in the new platform soon, or not new, but I'll go back on eBay and Mercari again soon. But so I also like dabbling in other things, like print on demand, like having my Etsy store with these products, like doing YouTube. That fulfills like the creative aspects in me and scratches that itch for me. So a lot of times reselling will only take up a very small portion of my day. Like really, photos, my morning routine that I said already, photos, and then we're going to talk about drafting here in a second, and then like any little odds and ends things at night. Obviously sharing, of course, but that's like across for everyone. We all do it. It is what it is. But sourcing, I've talked about this before. I do all my sourcing online. I have some relationships, blah, blah, blah. I have some relationships for bulk pre-owned items. And then I like to go on ThreadUp, Poshmark, swap.com, and then order other kinds of things. I do go to buy, sell, trade stores. I do retail arbitrage when there's something there for that. I've been trying to get into the airport lost luggage again and keep track of those auctions. So I do a lot of more like bulk in mass sourcing things. You know what I mean? Like when the Ross, markdowns were going on, I was like at Ross stores for an entire week and I got lots of stuff. When there's a Style Encore clearance event, I'm spending 4 hours there and getting a bunch of items. I order in bulk. I'll spend 3 hours on swap.com one day trying to build an amazing order. My boutique items, I go online and I order hundreds of boutique items and then they show up. So I do spend time on those things, but it's not a daily thrift store trip. It's not even 3 or 4 times a week thrift store trip. I haven't stepped foot in a thrift store in quite some time. So I do want to go back from time to time, but it's just like, why almost waste the time sometimes on an unknown when I have these things set up where I can just get stuff to come to me. So there is the thrill of the hunt, but I do also like the thrill of the hunt online too. So it's whatever fulfills you. Like if you like going to a thrift store for, a few hours and that's your retail therapy, then great. And that's what makes you happy. But what makes me happy is working more on all aspects of my business and being a little bit more creative than doing the shopping part of it, if that makes sense. So that is maybe a difference from a lot of people, and I just wanted to highlight that. So the bulk of that day now is basically over. I'll go get Gio. He's not really napping anymore, so he comes home, he has some quiet time and things like that. So while he's doing that, that's usually where I sit and have a little bit of quiet time and kind of can sit on the couch. It's the first time I've sat all day usually, snuggle my dog a little bit and get on my phone. And then that's when I'm doing kind of like a midday check-in, because pretty much when I'm doing all this other stuff, I'm not doing all these check-ins. Like I'm not on Instagram all day. I'm not, I guess I am. If I see an offer come in, I'll deal with it right away. But most of the time I'm not like doing a lot of stuff in Poshmark throughout unless I'm working on it for a project. So I'll do a midday check-in on all of my accounts, answer DMs, things like that. And then that's when I create the drafts, when I'm sitting and can kind of like veg and have like a little bit of a brainless moment, because most of these other projects are like hurting my head. And so, especially when it involves financial stuff, like Mondays, today's a Monday, I just worked on all my taxes and my new financial spreadsheet, and it's like my brain is totally fried. And so sitting down to create those Poshmark drafts, on my phone is very relaxing. And I'll put the news on and just kind of like chill. So I just upload, I'll edit the photos and pick, tap, go. And then I'll upload all the photos and create the draft and then basically leave it. And then the next day, that's when I pick it up in the morning and complete the draft and complete the listing. So it's like a 2-day process for me in the cycle of creating listings. But for me, that works. So I do my drafts, and then pretty much it's getting dinner ready, walking the dog again, having family time. So all those things are going on. And when I get a pocket of time, that's when I'll go in the guest room and sort. If I got an order in, I'm going to sort it out. What do I want to list myself? What I might take to style Encore on my next trip? What's going to go in a reseller box? I'll hang things over here on my rack so they're ready for me to photograph the next day. If I have a lot of items that sold, I may start prepping shipping and start pulling items just so it's a little bit easier in the morning, when I'm trying to get Gio to school. And that's pretty much the day for me. Like, I don't waste a lot of time. I'm productive all day long. And I was like that when I worked for someone else, and I'm certainly like that now that I work for myself. And I think one of the reasons why I like finding out what everybody does is because I'm always trying to see how I can improve. But I also think it's important to share with other people that maybe struggle with managing their time throughout the day, balancing work and life, balancing, being motivated and, executing on the things that they want with what is actually going on in their life. Because I think that there's a lot of wasted time, and I don't want anyone to feel like bad about that. But I do think that when you work for yourself, there's no one placing an expectation on you but you. I'm really good at that because I have high expectations for myself. I run myself ragged, but I love doing it. I could totally work my butt off today and feel so great at the end of the day, even though I'm mentally and physically spent, that I worked on my business and I built it further. So for me, I love that, and it does kind of energize me in a way. But for others, they don't have that same relationship. They want to do their stuff and then go and have fun. Or they want to be able to enjoy all the perks of working for yourself, meaning that you can schedule time with friends and do this. And hopefully I will do more of that. But right now it's a pandemic still. We're trying to be safe. And 2, I still really want to do a lot of things with my business first before I feel like I can pull back. Financially, the business is doing well for me, and I've been enjoying the perks of that in this last year. And so I think it's going to take me another year or 2 to really feel like I've set it up in such a way that now it kind of runs itself, and then I can step back a little bit more. Yeah, that's just some perspective there. But anyway, I don't want this to go on and on forever. It's been a little bit of a long video anyway. Some of the interviews that I have that I've already done and then obviously will come forward are going anywhere from 30 to 50 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on the conversation I have with the person. So again, I hope that you will come back week after week for Reseller Life, ! And check out a new seller every week and see what everybody is up to in their day. Learn a little something, share in the comments. We would all love to hear from you. As I have different guests, I always love to hear from you. And so I hope that you will subscribe to the channel so we can hang out again. I hope you like this video on the way out, and go ahead and leave me a comment and say hi. Thanks so much for joining me today for this episode of Reseller Life. I will see you next week for another episode. Bye.